going to be so important. He is the X factor as Arizona Akron gets underway tomorrow. The first round of the NCAA tournament in Seattle. And of course, the Cats 22-12. Akron Zips 28-6. They won the MAC regular season title and secured the conference tournament championship as they took care of Miami of Ohio. So the winner of this game will take on the winner of Liberty and Oregon. And joining us now, nice enough to join us as he gets ready for this game, Ryan Hansen, the University of Arizona color analyst. Rhino, what's going on, man? Are you ready? You ready for some madness tomorrow?
Yeah, it's starting. The juices are starting to flow, boys. You know this. There's a couple things. The first day of the tournament, Arizona's playing tomorrow, so I'm literally at Climate Pledge Arena right now. The Wildcats are on the floor as we speak for their open practice, so that always starts to feel like, okay, it's happening. And the other thing is, the first big upset of the tournament, when that happens, you know it's on. And how about McNeese? They get it off started right. So here we go. Let the madness begin.
You know, I always help you out with a little homework for your broadcast. That's just kind of my thing. So you're going to play the Akron Zippers. They don't use that term anymore. It's just the Zips. And it was the B.F. Goodrich Company that made rubber overshoes for poor weather, rain and snow, and they called them the Zippers. So now you're up to speed on how you can define the Akron Zips tomorrow.
Well, I feel so much more smart and educated, and now I'm a little scared because we're in a rainy, dreary city that maybe the Zips will come better prepared with the appropriate equipment because of the rain outside. No, just kidding, Jimmy. Thanks for that update. That's a good one. If I can fit that in the broadcast, I may be entering Hall of Fame broadcast territory tomorrow.
You're already there. All right, let's talk about Love. I mean, everybody talks about him. He's such a streaky type of player. How do you feel about him going into this, as well as Bradley and some of the other key components of this team?
I feel like Arizona last week at the Big 12 tournament took a step forward. You know, down the stretch didn't look great. Lost at Iowa State, lost in Fog Allen. Really nothing to be upset about on two of your last three games of the regular season. But I felt they took a step forward. And why do I say that? I think they got back to their DNA. They got back to defending a little bit better. Still not where it would need to be to make a deep run. We can talk about that later. But really offensively, got back to driving it downhill. They got points in the paint in the Big 12 tournament. That's going to be a theme as we move forward in the NCAA tournament. If Arizona stays true to their DNA, the three-point shot can be icing on the cake if they do their job, and that's put pressure on people with getting the ball down low.
You know, it's funny that you brought that up right away in our conversation, because as I watch a lot of these games, unless you're way behind, like, say, Clemson was, and you have to really shoot the three to try to shoot yourself back in if you can make them, the majority of the teams that I have watched so far do exactly what you just said, and that is get into the paint, try to get to the basket, and if it's not available, then they will kick out for what they would hope would be an open jump shot.
Yeah, and if we zero in, Jimmy, on the game tomorrow, Akron is the shortest team in the NCAA tournament.
Huh.
So it tells you that Arizona could have a great opportunity at the rim if they can just get there, not turn it over, put their head down if you're a guard and drive it to the rim and utilize their size advantage in the post. That could be a huge advantage for Arizona. But you also said this, driving it to kick out to threes. Watch out. Conversely, that's a lot of what Akron can do, right? They play a lot of small players that love straight line drives. They can finish in and around the basket, but they utilize the drive more as a weapon to open up the three-point shot. So if Arizona, which on occasion this year, they've given up double-digit made three-pointers to their opponents, that's how upsets, that's kind of the recipe to a certain degree of a really good upset is hitting 10 or more threes.
All right, my follow-up question to that, and I do not have the stats in front of me, so maybe you have glanced at them and you can enlighten me. Because of the Zips' lack of size, are they a team that gets defensively in your face and causes turnovers against other teams?
No, it's interesting, Jimmy. You would think that, right? That's one of the first things you would think of is maybe full court pressure, or they utilize their small, quicker players to really turn you over at a high clip. They only force 12 turnovers a game. So it's not like they're turning people over at a high clip, but they play at a very fast pace, which traditionally would be a good thing for Arizona, right? The Wildcats play at a fast pace. If they have gotten slowed down in the NCAA tournaments, that's kind of been their kryptonite. So you would think right off the bat that an up-tempo team like Akron would maybe play into Arizona's hands, but watch out. Those transition opportunities that Akron could get kind of negate the size disadvantage that they will see against Arizona. They can get transition threes, and that's how they utilize their quickness, is getting the ball up and down the floor.
Getting ready for Arizona Akron tomorrow. Ryan Hansen joining us here from Seattle here on ESPN 620 with Rocco Minucci and Jimmy B. A lot of talk over the last week with Izzo and Few and consecutive tournaments. I don't think Tommy Lloyd's getting the love that he has. I mean, he's been part of 25 consecutive seasons in the tournament. What is it going to take for Tommy to get that love that he deserves?
Well, now that he's moved over 18 inches, 4 years ago to the head coaching seat, he's going to need to hang, for lack of a better phrase, he's going to need to hang a banner, and maybe not a title banner, but a Final Four banner. I really think in college basketball, coaches are measured maybe unfairly by Final Four appearances. And if you have at least one, then the rest of your body of work can be respected and looked at with favor. And I think Tommy's probably in that situation where he's a victim of his own early success at Arizona. Year one takes over for Sean Miller. There were some good players, don't get me wrong, but he brought that team together and was a 1 seed and was bounced in the Sweet 16. So almost to anybody else, that would have been, hey, look at this guy. He's really done an incredible job in his first year. And now, 4 straight years, 2 out of the last 3 in the Sweet 16, positioned again, seed-wise, for another potential second weekend run or beyond.
3 minutes. 3 minutes.
I think he's going to have to get to a Final Four.
Okay. Is the heat off of him, though, now after the struggles that took place during the regular season and then the way that the team closed and where they are seated? Is some of that heat diminished now?
There will always be heat for an Arizona coach, much like in Indiana, Kentucky, Kansas, Florida, right? Teams that would say that they're in the top tier or the second tier of college basketball programs. So Tommy's never going to get away from that. I think he relishes that. But I think what you're asking is this guy, can he do it at this level? I think he's skirted most of those critics because of how he has developed the players this year, how he's, relatively speaking, turned it around. The Wildcats went out of a 15-game stretch 14-1. They won 14 out of 15 games in one stretch this season. So this is a team that knows how to string together wins. They played in a very tough conference, and I think are positioned well.
Ryan, I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Paul Coro from GCU.
2 minutes. 2 minutes.
Color analyst earlier last hour. The Arizona Wildcats need to do what to win tomorrow?
I'm going to tell you, there's 2 things they need to do. They need to, and it goes back to the first thing I said, they need to stick true to their DNA, which is don't launch threes and get to the paint. So if they are shooting 20 plus 3-pointers, that's a bad number. It's really not about the makes for me. It's about the attempts. And if you're trying to match Akron 3 for 3, that's a dangerous recipe. Wildcats need to get the ball into the paint. The second thing is they can't let Akron go on a heater. If Akron, in which they have done at least once this season, has made 15 threes in a single game, that's somewhat of an anomaly. But point being, if they're upwards of 9, 10, 11 threes, which, oh, by the way, they average 11 threes a game, it better be on 30-plus attempts. It's going to have
1 minute. 1 minute.
For Arizona to feel comfortable in tomorrow's game.
Will Visar have his way down low on the block, or will he struggle?
Oh, he could, but how they defend him will be interesting, right? They've got one really good post player who's played at a high major, James Okonkwo, transfer most recently from North Carolina, had more time at West Virginia the year before that. So they've got a decent postman at 6'7" who can body Visar up. But will Visar be able to take the pressure of what's potentially going to be double teams in the post? We saw it against Houston where he wasn't as solid with the basketball. He's got to keep it high. He could, just what you alluded to, he could have a great game at the rim, but he's got to be able to take care of the basketball and be ready for that pressure.
Rhino, thank you, especially being on the road, man. We always appreciate you making time for us. Thank you so much.
As you know, I love talking to Coach. The other two guys, I don't know about that, but I love talking to Jimmy.
You're the best, pal. Thank you.
That's Ryan Hansen joining us here at University of Arizona Radio Color Analyst. You can follow him on Twitter X at UA Rhino, and I'm sure he'll be updating throughout the weekend as Arizona and Akron tomorrow at 4:35. We're going to take you into the Suns locker room from last night next, and we have some football coming up in 15 or so minutes. It's Rock and Manuch with Jimmy B from Twin Peaks Camelback.